my personal story with blood sugar, it became a mystery. I didn't even realize it was becoming a mystery because there was so many other things going on. I had just I just began a second marriage. My first marriage ended in divorce after 16 years of marriage. And it was about a 4 or 5 year hiatus there where I was just figuring myself out and coming into terms with, just raising my daughter and just focusing on my career and growing myself and my faith. And that, with that, I was also aging. I was in my late 40s now. And, it was easy when you're in that time of life to kind of point to other things impacting, say, blood sugar or how you're feeling. So I wasn't necessarily connecting this with hormones. Again, my doctors didn't know it either. They didn't know to tell me. They didn't know to warn me. And I didn't know to ask. So that's kind of the caveat right there. So what I want to do today is really just talk about, all the things that I faced as well. All the things that I used to do that worked, I've always been pretty routine with my food and what I was eating, how I was eating. Really consistent with that. My exercise was always really consistent. I've always done a pretty good job at just staying on track with the basics that we all know helps to support blood sugar, right? So suddenly that was not good enough. It wasn't working anymore. My insulin to carb ratio was just starting to, it was getting cut in half, so I used to be 1 to 15, 1 unit to 15 grams of carbs. And now it was coming down to 1 unit to 12 carbs. And, so it was starting to be really, really cut, shortened. And I was needing more and more basal insulin. Again, this is when I was still multiple daily injections. And as you may know, I'm now on an insulin pump. But either way, whatever therapy you are using, you're still in tune with what's changing, whether it's your pump settings or your basal rates or all the above. So I get that. And the only thing my doctors were telling me was, well, I guess you just need to take more insulin, right? So, well, if what you're taking is not working, I guess your body just needs more. And in theory, they were right. Because my body was becoming less resistant to what used to work. So that was the number one thing that happened for me was that resistance and weight gain. Again, I was always been very, very fortunate to, again, have steady habits, steady weight for years. Very fortunate about that. And suddenly that wasn't staying steady anymore either. So there was a little frustration with that. So, and again, over time, the weight increased. I'm talking 6, 7, 8 pounds, but I'm petite. I'm, smaller frame. So that was significant for me, and it was mostly around the middle, which is generally what happens when we are, again, losing the hormones. And when estrogen gets lower, we do tend to gain weight around the middle. So more of the visceral fat. And I didn't feel as well, I know this helps us, or I should say it hits us emotionally and just on our ability every day to get up and to do what we do, to feel good about what we're doing and to feel confident about our choices. And then it helps that is reiterated in our results. And when it's suddenly not being reinforced or kind of noticed with our results, blood sugar results, weight results, energy results, all the things that we used to get back from taking care of ourselves. That's where the frustration can lies in. And we all know when frustration kicks in and we don't feel as well, we're less motivated. So that can be a vicious cycle. I know it was for me. So as I entered perimenopause, again, late 40s, I didn't know what this was connected to. A couple other things were happening too. Again, in hindsight, because if I had known then what I know now, I would have been a lot more proactive and asked the right questions, getting with the right doctors, and to pursue other things as far as what my care really needed. But some things that were popping up, I was suddenly experiencing vertigo. and something I'd never had in my life. And I had bouts of that. It was about 6, 7 years ago. I remember it being summertime, and I was actually working with some people, doing some personal training and some health coaching in a health space. And I remember meeting them, and I can just remember, I still remember the conversation. It's like, what the heck is going on? Why am I dizzy? And it's vertigo is not fun. I mean, you feel dizzy, nauseous, all the things, and you just feel like all the only thing you want to do is sit still, because certain movement, in your head and all of that, it just disrupts everything. And I was pretty headstrong anyway, so I just kept kind of plowing through it. And I did end up going to a chiropractor, getting the maneuver that they do to kind of reset your crystals. That helped a little bit. But again, I didn't know. Doctors didn't know. The chiropractor that helped me didn't know the link between this and my falling estrogen. Another thing that was happening, and this was kind of weaved into the vertigo episodes that were happening every couple months, was frozen shoulder. So I remember exactly when this happened. We had just had a hurricane hit us here in Northeast Florida where I live. It was Hurricane Matthew, 2016. So that would have been 8 years ago. So I would have been late 40s, so 49, 50. And I just suddenly, it was mostly my right shoulder that really flared up. And my other shoulder was not quite as bad, but still they were both just very stiff, immobile. Couldn't take a shirt off without it hurting. Couldn't, put a bra on or off, or, like the workout bras that we wear underneath our layers of t-shirts and stuff when we're at the gym. Those were nearly impossible. I mean, I had some that were just stacked in my drawer that I used to love to wear, but I could no longer get them on or off without extreme pain. So just the things that changed when that was happening. And again, there was no link back to the fact that I was in perimenopause. So these are just a few of the things that I experienced. And, I am learning from more and more of my clients as I'm talking to them, and we're walking through some of the symptoms they're feeling.